So, guys, again, warm welcome to all the participants who have stood over till now. Yeah. So, we'll just start with the session, keynote 6 and 7. And we have our chairperson over here, respected chairperson, Kumkum Nadik, with us to guide with the session. And she's a very great visual communication designer and an educator too, with over of 35 years of her professional and 20 years of academic experience with her to share with her. Yes, and she has a very unique approach to visual communication that is informed by her multi-branched education in architecture field and even in industrial design and graphic design as well. Yeah, and currently she is holding the position of dean at the School of Design and Business and Technology at Srishti Institute of Art, Design and Technology in Bangalore. Yeah, guys. And apart from this, she's also the founder of her own design firm called Kena Design. And also, she has a keen interest in other faculties like music, farming, and herbology, and even in history of art and design and expressive typography as well. So guys, we have a multi-personality over here, and I'll just hand over this session to Kumkum ma'am. So over to Kumkum ma'am. Yeah.
So thank you very much for that introduction. We now have two speakers from two different parts of the world, Europe and West Asia, for the Vision Address 6 and 7. I'll begin by introducing our first Vision Address speaker, Ms. Veronika Burain. She's a typographer from Czech Republic. Veronika Burain's undergraduate education was in product design and postgraduate education in typeface design. After graduating from the University of Reading in UK 2003, Veronika has been pursuing type design since it has been her true passion ever since. She got her first-hand experience and valuable input while working at the London type studio called Dalton Mark, developing original typefaces for a variety of clients. Currently, she is the founder and partner at an independent font foundry known as TypeTogether, and she gives talks on type design at international conferences and universities. Her partner, Jose, and herself also collaborate with educational institutions and NGOs around the globe, organizing seminars, masterclasses, and workshops on typography and type design. These are tailored for specific level of students, ranging from the very first steps of letter sketching to the highly complex process of font production. Veronika is also one of the organizers of the Alphabets mentorship program, co-chairwoman of the GRANSHAN Project, co-curator and organizer of TypeTech MeetUp, and guest lecturer at the Faculty of Architecture and Design at NTNU in Norway. So today, Veronika's talk is titled as Play, Work, Laugh, Type Together in Pursuit of Happiness. Her talk will be a journey into her independent font foundry TypeTogether's philosophy, business credo, and design practices. She will also be showcasing the multi-script type design projects, as well as educational and community-driven efforts undertaken by her company TypeTogether. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Veronika Burain.
Hey, thank you very much for this introduction and also for the invitation. Actually, for years, I have been thinking about coming to India and attending Typo Day. It never kind of worked out, but so I'm particularly kind of happy to be here now virtually. First of all, just a little bit of background. Just a very little background on me. I'm actually born in Czech Republic. So here you see Prague, which is a bit of a mixture of kind of the Kafkaesque and fairy tale melancholy but also some cubism and these kind of very brutal concrete deserts. When I was 7, though, we actually escaped. That was during the Cold War still, with my family to Munich, Germany, the south, which in a way is very different from the kind of the visual environment of Prague. And here I went to school and to university. This is kind of a little bit of a diagram I like to show of my movements in a way that over the last 20-30 years I've been kind of moving around for study, but also for work in different areas in industrial design and then ultimately type design, that really shaped me and my kind of visual perception, the aesthetic values, and also a very high sense of flexibility. But at some point, about almost 20 years ago, I really fell for type. I discovered type design and went to Reading. Here there's late Professor Gerard Unger, a very dear mentor and teacher, and that's where I got to meet my business partner, José Scaglione, where at some point about 15 years ago, we actually started TypeTogether, where really from the start there was a very strong sense of collaboration, and that continues to today. So at the beginning, 15 years ago, it was just us two working apart. Yeah, I was based actually back then in the US, and Jose is from Argentina. So we had this experience of digital kind of collaboration, visual collaboration, that now in the last 2 years people got used to much more. And we started also as a collaboration on a typeface, which was quite unusual back then. It did not quite, not in the same way as it's now. So over time, though, you know, all these aspects of a design business, of running a foundry, we needed support. And so with time, the kind of team increased. We call it, let's say, like kind of a core family. And then we have the extended family with external freelancers, consultants, and also kind of our teaching efforts. So the collaborative aspect became even more important over time. I like to say that we are kind of a global small company with a very strong team and this broad network of collaborators, because we also publish typefaces by other designers. And so you see we are pretty much spread around. And we truly are digital, online. We have our online meetings regularly. We present each other in the projects, but we also meet usually once a year. Over the last 2 years, that wasn't possible. However, in next week, we will be meeting finally. I'm really looking forward to that. And those are times where the kind of collaboration and the exchange intensifies. So it's important. And as I said, we also have this broader kind of family, extended family to work with. Community support is really important for us. So it's not just kind of business, you know, and it's about sharing knowledge, about giving lectures, workshops, and so on. And that's not just me and Jose, but really the whole team works as either teachers, or we give workshops. We also collaborate with university, with schools on projects. Either we had some poster projects. We had kind of where we collaborate with either the teachers directly with the students, giving a typeface to those students, for example, and they develop a project out of this. We also have quite a big blog, so we find it important to really write about certain things, educational articles, be it from like Pooja, she was writing on the anatomy of Devanagari type, or but some kind of history of design, typo matching, and so on. So this is part of our kind of efforts to share knowledge. And yeah, this was the project, kind of a branding project with students. They were using they choose a certain typeface from our library, and then made these kind of fake things, or posters for a certain topic to kind of play around, to give them the chance to experiment with modern typefaces. And we also, that was just one exhibition at the moment, although we might plan a few more, with one of our first Hebrew typefaces created by Adi Stern, a friend and actually my colleague at Reading. And we were asking several Israeli illustrators, designers, to come up with an idea on how to use the typeface. But one of the really main kind of educational efforts that we have is the Chayat Unga Scholarship. And that's kind of our main initiative in that direction. He was, as I said, really our teacher. He was very much our mentor and also friend. And he had published 4 typefaces with us. And he unfortunately passed away already 3 years ago. So we renamed our initiative in his name. And from that, now we have, I think, 8 projects. This is Roxane Gatteau, a French young designer with a belly. I have a video. Let's see if that plays. Yeah. Do you hear the sound? I'm not sure if you hear the sound. There might be some delay.
Yeah.
So the mentorship is really meant for kind of young talent as a way of supporting them for a while financially, and with a kind of an internship for a few months, so they get to know the foundry's workings, and above all, a mentorship by me and Jose. We meet regularly, we discuss the project, we give feedback, and so on. We develop basically a student project into a fully fledged product for the market. And with Juan, he also a student from Reading. He had an interest in Bengali. So over the last few years, he developed this together with some consultants, and also then especially the last 2 years with Pooja Saxena, one of our team members, and we are about to publish that. Then there was Temeraire Quentin's French designer, young designer, who, well, he kind of did some exploration into the British styles, like here these kind of posters. And his family is quite a small family, but very much grounded in this historical exploration. And just recently we have some custom development in for a client. We were asked to expand it in Cyrillic, Greek, and Thai. Then we had Boji Da, Spanish designer with quite an unusual kind of stencil style. and Florian, a German guy with Lektorat, very kind of big concept for editorial publishing. And Anya Danilova, a Russian designer who is still at the moment working on Rezak, which is kind of inspired and very much inspired by wood and lino cutting, and she herself was experimenting a lot with those kind of tools to develop the shapes. And the latest one is Aeroplan by a German student who got sort of inspired by this book she found about engineering and airplane engineering and aircraft kind of engines, and but sort of translated these shapes, reinterpreted them, and we found it one of the best projects in this year's scholarship round. For me, it's also kind of important to have a voluntary engagement. So of course, with TypeTogether, we do these educational efforts, but me personally, I have a couple of engagements. One is Alphabets, which is basically a loose network of women that started in 2015, and we have been expanding it. I think now very loosely, and there are 300 members from all over the world, and it has been kind of initiated as a support and promote the work of all women in the fields of typography and lettering. And as part of that, we created the mentorship program to kind of help young or old, mostly people who identify as female, although we do also accept male participants in this program, to help people from different parts of the country that don't have access to resources about type and typography to be matched with a mentor from the profession. So this is us. We are kind of 5 matchmakers, let's say, and who do it all voluntary. This is from a few months ago, a little diagram. We have mentors and mentees, quite a big bunch from India and North America, of course, and Europe. And for example, Asmita, she had this project and was matched with Amélie, a French designer. And Asmita, she said, "I'm grateful to the program for assigning me with a wonderful mentor. It was a great experience. Amélie was able to provide me with guidance, which helped me in achieving greater clarity and direction in my project and my future endeavors." So it's often about really just jump-starting people or helping them see things differently. Or what we are particularly also happy with is that Tatyana Lopez, very young student designer from El Salvador, she was one of the first mentees who received the Beatrice Ward Scholarship last year. That's awarded by Monotype and the Type Directors Club. And they continue with Petra, continue to have a really nice relationship. And Tatyana was incredibly pleased and grateful to this opportunity. I mean, not to say that it always works out, right? It's sometimes we also have issues either, or something happens, or the match is not perfect. But over the last few years, we really found that it does help. It does have an impact on the community, on people who otherwise would not have access and the contacts, and it can grow from there. And the other kind of project I'm involved with now increasingly more is GRANSHAN. So for a few years I was more like kind of a helping hand, and then last year we created a session of meetups, so-called meetups. They had to also be done online, of course, more based on a kind of focused on technical parts of type. And from this year on, I'm also the co-chairwoman of the type design competition of GRANSHAN. So GRANSHAN really is an international cultural project, originally born from an Armenian type design competition set up by Veronika Burain an Armenian type designer. That's why you see here Yerevan, the capital city of Armenia. And today kind of pursues the idea not only to preserve local typefaces, but make them known all over the world. And we are also planning actual typography competition next year, because now over the last 10, 12 years, it's clear that the quality of multi-script faces of global typography has increased, and now it's time to also pick and see and acknowledge what has been done, what people are doing with these scripts, with these typefaces. So just to show a little bit, because probably not everybody will know where Armenia is. So when you see it on this kind of map, it's really in the middle somewhere between the Orient and the Occident, and has always been a very small civilization, kind of occupied by the one or the other. And therefore, in a way, they really had to find a way to identify themselves, to have their own references for identity, irrespective of any ruler that just happened to be there. And one such cultural identifier is their script, the Armenian script. Back in the 5th century BC, a very smart ruler asked a cleric named Mesrop to develop Armenian letters. So here you see it, there's Mesrop, and then on the left, you see the letters, so for the Armenian people. And this kind of celebration, it's almost like a cult, and there are only a couple or maximum 3 countries who really celebrate their script. The other one is Korea. So it's a very strong kind of very strong cultural identifier. And I'll show you another little video. You might get a better impression of how GRANSHAN works. So let's hope this works. So yeah, as you see, it really kind of celebrates the diversity and richness of typographic scripts, and therefore underpins the global communication. And we try to empower communities and enable identity. And one part is, as I said, by organizing these typeface competitions. These are the winners from 2 years ago, and this year we are about to launch the new one. So these 4 my kind of, let's say, more personal engagements. Back to TypeTogether, which is not really a separation. One of our credo is good karma, in a way, and which for us means fairness, and kind of to keep things personal in that we care about people, and we help out. We really pride ourselves on very good customer support. We take the communication with the designers, with the users, with the developers, with academia, and students, of course, very, very seriously, since we really consider that as a base for promotion of high quality typography. And also another important factor for us, at least, is this way to be generous and therefore sustainable for people, and of course to have a positive approach. And one thing is we created a crediting model because we found that really way too little, and this is now a few years back, like 5 years back or so. Very often the actual type projects were big. There are many people involved, but only like kind of the foundry or the main designers were accredited everywhere, and we found that that should change. So we created kind of a model to do that, and we are doing it. We presented it. I think that at least some foundries are sort of following, but yeah, of course, on our side we do that because in a way, fair and proper accreditation is really important for the typography industry as a whole, because it nourishes the community and it helps to establish type making as an endeavor of worthy of people's attention, and through that you bring a better general appreciation of things. And of course the other thing is also to celebrate people and to show people behind the scenes. So that's why we have, for example, these kind of meet the team. We try to recognize the efforts that in our way creates really a mutually respectful and therefore fruitful relationship. And we also engage in kind of really projects that don't have financial benefit in that sense. Like this one was a self-initiated project to extend one of our families, adolescents, to cover all of the African languages that use the Latin script. We worked with various linguists and specialists on that over quite a time. And we work with NGOs and academia that who would need such language support to give it out for free. And we've started extending it to another type family, but this is still very much in progress. And or we also have done various other kind of non-profit projects. Like this one, this Langara College in Canada. They needed, the college is actually built on original Indian grounds, and they wanted to acknowledge that and create the Halkomelon kind of support from the Musqueam Band Canadian communities. And so we helped them create the additional kind of letters that were needed to one of our typefaces that university had been already using in their kind of communications and branding. So here as well, we worked very closely with their particular linguists and to create something workable for them. So it's quite a crazy kind of, if you look at it in a sort of typographic terms, it's quite a crazy script. The other thing important is diversity. And you can see that in our team in a way, from really various parts of the globe. But I'll show you just a quick on. Yeah, we find it important to have this broad range of people working with us, and so to really accepting and embracing also cultural differences, and that bring in a way a personal growth. No, that really helps us to create better design solutions and to be very much respectful of local and regional preferences. So part of that, of course, are our multi-script project. First one is adolescence that kind of came to life about 2012. We published the Latin, which is a grotesque, in a way, with some humanist appeal, and that was in 2012. So digital communication already was on its way, at least in certain places in the world. The whole kind of connection, communication, and clarity above all was important. And we saw for the users of adolescence as very much in apps but also in print and editorial. And over time, So it has it started to have this range, and it has planned kind of the heavier weights. They show a certain level of personality and punch, while the lighter ones are more kind of readable. Let's say they deliver more of a pleasantness while reading. And actually, the Latin also includes condensed styles that I did not show here. So it has been used in a range of really applications, and mostly print, but also increasingly in digital, be it on the web or in apps or UIs. And a few years back, about I think 8 years, over the past 8 years, we have been developing other scripts to create this multi-broad, multi-script family that really share the original intention of the Latin, but obviously very clearly and then also very decidedly respect and follow the script's own logic and rules and typographic history. So these are the ones, these 11 that we have published, but we are also in the process of developing further. One of them is the Bengali. And here really kind of a challenge was to devise the appropriate terminal endings in place of bold terminals so that the design matches the concept of a sans serif better, but without stripping Bengali of its Bengaliness. And that has been a bit of a challenge also to some of our reviewers and consultants. So we are a lot in the process of working on this. Or the other one we are working on with Sandol is the Korean, is a Hangul for other songs. Always kind of keeping in mind the similar applications of the Latin. So a very flexible, a multi kind of purpose, flexible songs that can be used in a big range of applications and also platforms. We have started, with quite easily, let's say, with the Latin, the Cyrillic and Greek, and continued then to Armenian and also Devanagari. Those were some of the first more complex scripts, and Arabic and the Chinese we did not design ourselves, of course, because that kind of overreaches too much our expertise, but we collaborate with, in these cases, we collaborate with partners, and this is Founder Type, and we worked with them to match. So to match other songs to one of their Lanting Hei Chinese design that existed, that they adapted to other songs. So we created this kind of project. And as I was saying, it's their songs has this range of weights, and in a way for the more complex scripts, that's a bit of an unusual big range, and that has its own kind of challenges. To create these heavier shapes, to create space and still be legible enough. Okay, then we have the Arabic similarly in a kind of matching the Latin. However, of course, the script has to harmonize, but without losing its own identity. These are further scripts. Okay, I'll skip the video then if you want. Okay, right. So, okay, I show you a couple more projects just to. So the other one is Brie, our kind of upright italic developed from our logotype that we've been expanding as one thing that we always from the start kind of was in a way a certain advantage perhaps was that we were keen on really designing diacritical marks in an appropriate and really useful way. So here just some examples in use. And recently we have published Cyrillic and Greek, and we are also we worked on Thai with a partner in Bangkok, Katsan Demak, who sort of pick up on the characteristics. So one of them is there are these two moods, more kind of a playful, more italic, and also with the stylistic alternates, a more classical, a more formal version. And Arabic in that sense is interesting, and it uses the Ruka style, which is used as a handwriting, style because of its simple structure, no? And it has this more informal and friendly feel. So therefore, as our Arabic designer, she felt it was most appropriate to translate these Ruka shapes into typographic shapes. And even here, she managed to kind of find some stylistic alternates, although they are not necessarily more formal, but they do create a different level of texture. And one tricky kind of question in Arabic is italic, because it's not really used as much. So it's a challenge to transfer this concept of an italic into Arabic typography. And then one way was to increase the angle in respect to the baseline, as you see at the bottom. This one is just a little showing of, to see the process in a way of how we work with glyphs. So it's a lot of moving around and deleting and fixing. At some point, you can barely see what you work on. So having a good break is also important. And the Brie Devanagari, hopefully that one is coming. So my last is Portara. That is really kind of, it's a serif, and but it has been created pretty much from the start for the digital world. And this was a few years back as well, where serif faces were not as common on the web or for longer text reading. So it's meant for kind of e-ink to harsh grids to retina capability, and we developed family of titling and text, where the text shapes are a bit different. They perform better on screen. Okay, let's skip this then. So like here. So yeah, I was mentioning the titling and text, they do have certain different shapes and proportions. And so it's depending on their functionality, of course. It has been kind of the original well, initiation or origin of this project was actually an Argentinian newspaper for the headline, but we created then this other family out of it. So just some samples. And here at the moment, we only have, of course, the Latin and the Thai that have been published, but we are working on, I mean, we had the opportunity to develop the Thai, this time not with Katsan, but with Pilar Kano. And there as well, you know, as kind of transferring these, the intentions of the Latin. So that means also here in the text that which for Thai is actually rather unusual to have such a bold range of weights because they prefer the lighter ones, but still for display it's used very much. There are ink traps or other kind of details or wider proportions to make it work for text. And Portada Arabic as well, it's basically ready to publish. Here as well, it's adapted for screen use and also has in a way somewhat different shapes, more kind of dynamic shapes for the text version. Right, the Cyrillic is very much in development. Okay, so I really like this project from James Turrell, the Sky Pesher. I would love to be there sometimes. I think it's very meditative. So just to say, really, to taking a stance by simply doing, making, forming, and sensing our environment with respect and solidarity. That's incredibly important. And acting also sometimes means just stopping for a moment and changing angles and thinking outside the box. And type might not change the world, but it can help to let people communicate better with each other and their environment and transport important values and concepts and therefore build intercultural bridges. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Veronika. That was an amazing presentation. The idea of inclusivity and diversity came across so strongly in all your work and all your endeavors, whether it is the initiatives like Alphabets or GRANSHAN or the scholarship program that you have been supporting, or even your font designs, especially your staff project on Adele Sans. So I am really impressed and so
thank you very much.
That this talk was so informative to see what a type designer can do, how many different areas one can venture out into, and how inclusive and how diverse it can be as a profession. So let me now say bye to you for the time being.